well, Dublin, Tokyo, Brighton, UK, Colombia. Hey guys, everyone coming from around Vegas, South Africa, Brazil. It's really, really cool to see you guys. Norway, Saudi Arabia, California, Singapore, Belgium. Man, you guys are everywhere. I can't keep up. All right, I should drink some coffee though. Okay. So, hey everyone, I'm Clive.
And I'm not. No, I'm Louis. Thanks. Welcome.
Welcome, everyone.
See what happens. We miss Zach off.
So today we're going to be talking about the really important step of delivering information and making sure that we've got checks and balances in place to make sure that the final information published is actually authorized for use and is valuable for teams. Episode 1, we talked about templates. A lot of you have got involved and actually improving those templates, which is fantastic, but you can access all of these in the app. We also then used those in episode 2 for the tendering process and understanding how we could then quickly develop all of the important documents from the OIR, the PIR, the EIR, and so on to create something that the teams could respond to. Then we went through the contracting and appointment of a team or teams in that workflow. We looked at the production in the last webinar, how we use and collaborate to seamlessly and reduce the waste in producing information. But what usually happens next, Louis, once we are creating a model, what usually happens next? What do we see in our industry?
Just start throwing them over the fence, right? Start sharing them all the way to the BIM manager, whoever's going to start checking the models.
People have a contract and yeah, they tend to say, it's not my problem anymore. I have delivered what I was contracted for. So here, this is your hot potato. This is your problem.
Right.
But, yeah, and we joke, but that's our industry. We're very contractual. Why does it occur? Why do we have problems in delivering and making sure that we've got that workflow smoothly operating on our projects? There's so many different challenges. I don't know whether you want to call any out.
Yes, sometimes the processes aren't clarified before these submittals or deliverables take place. So everything we've talked about in the previous episodes have built us to get to this point. But when all that doesn't happen, we just tend to deliver a model without checking and without verifying and end up with a lot of implications. And it's usually because we're running out of time.
Yep.
You know, sometimes we don't follow, we skip processes, we skip the standards and delivery methods because we simply just want to make that deadline and please the customer or the client or our consultants, whoever we're working with.
Yep. So what's the solution? How can we solve this challenge of delivery? Well, today, hopefully, you'll have some tips and tricks to help you in that workflow. Episode 5 today is about the delivery of that information following this workflow. There's a high resolution version of this and some supporting documentation at this link / so plannerly.com / ISO-19650-PDF. So if you wanted to dig in deeper into any part of that workflow, it's available for you there for free. This is really unpacking for ISO 19650 Part 2, the steps 7.1, 2, 3, and 4. In very simple terms, we're looking at submitting the information to the lead appointed party. And that could be a number of different ways.
You know, design consultants to an architect, subcontractors to a main contractor, an outsourced company to a customer. This could be any one of those as examples.
Yep. So we deliver it. And the second part is to review it and authorize, hopefully all in one, not save it, not being partial, but we've got some really interesting workflows to assist in making that a little bit more tightly and a lean approach to continuously delivering, but whilst having a gate check on full containers of information as well. And then once approved, if not all rejected, once approved, that would then be submitted to the appointing party for acceptance. And again, once they have gone through all of those really important steps of verifying that it meets the listed deliverables in the master information delivery plan, and does it meet the level of information need, all of the exchange information requirements, etc., then we have some deliverables that can be authorized for use. So if we break that down, there's a few steps there, and it's not, I wouldn't say that detailed. I mean, you know, we've got a lot of documentation to read in the standards, which is fantastic. But when we look at this part, it's not in massive detail. In the previous stage where we were producing information, the task team has their review before they are then submitting. As they submit to the lead appointed party, They are accepting or rejecting, and then the appointing party is accepting or rejecting. This whole workflow is pretty simple when you look at it, but today we're going to unpack a few best practices to dig in deeper into each of these aspects and hopefully provide some ideas that can improve your delivery workflow as well. We'll look at understanding requirements, how we define the submittal and checking workflows, how to keep good records, and then how to use structured data in other tools as well, not just in the Planoly workflow. So the first one is understanding requirements. We need to read the information production methods and procedures that are contained right the way through that plethora of three-letter acronyms, all of those documents. How am I exchanging? And when we get to level of information need as well, what am I exchanging? And then when I exchange it, how do I name that container, that set of information? How do I name it? How is it classified?
Yeah, just understand the standards, basically.
Yep. And then your scope, purpose. When it comes to ISO 19650, everything driven by why you're doing it.
Yeah, we always start with the why. We always push that almost in every webinar. Start with the why when it comes to any scopes. We've mentioned these in the previous episodes, but having the why is going to have you package these in the right manner. So for facilities, quantities, AR, VR, clash detection, these are the delivery milestones that you'll be sharing and delivering to the next team.
And yeah, when you package it, visually understanding it in a structured way is really important, as we'll show downstream in use of that information in other tools as well. Management tasks, it's not just about understanding from a BIM perspective, from a modeling perspective, also information. Here we have a set of tasks that are related to in this example, it's actually the assessment of need, but in this phase of the delivery, you'll actually have a set of tasks which are checklist-based items that are part of the information management tasks that are also part of the templates inside of Planoly to be able to check off.
Yeah, we need to understand what is our responsibility. We typically have documents that are summarized all the responsibilities of different teams, but we need to understand, maybe have a tool, have a way of filtering for what is responsible, so you have a solid checklist of items that you'll be wanting to submit for.
Yep. And the Kanban board shown in the previous slide was really understanding the steps, defining this early so that teams can clearly understand what the statuses are and communication methods. In a few examples here, we have from to do and then ball in court, for example, the lead appointed party and the appointing party, who is reviewing at that point. So in the bottom left, we've got statuses following the UK annex. So we've got things like S4 that are understanding the status of a package of work. Or we have things like on track, behind, and procured, for example. These are completely flexible, but the important part is the teams know what those are going to be, and they are notified when certain things change. In the example here, I'm moving a couple of tasks from the lead appointed party to the appointing party review, and they will be notified and by email and in the project feed. So this is really important to clearly communicate how that's going to occur.
It's important to define each step and what it means to accept and or decline a task.
So once we understand what we have to do, how will we submit that work? What's a submittal workflow that we can understand a bit more clearly? The first one is version control of those deliverables. So once you've got this container of information, it's named appropriately. How are you managing the versions and sharing those versions of all those different files and formats, and potentially dropping them into Planoly, managing version control, or connecting up to a CDE, another CDE that might use the Autodesk Construction Cloud to be able to manage that and always know that it's in one place, but connect it into your deliverables, for example, inside of Planoly. And then once you've got that model, we want to be able to understand what we're delivering to. So there's a request of the information requirements that's then linked to the information deliverables. And those links are really powerful when you're reviewing the items. As we go through and start to update the status of these stairs are now ready for the appointing party. I am the appointed party, and I am the one that is either sharing or moving. We saw in the drag and drop, you can drag and drop a card, or we can just change the status of this card that is connected to these elements to update the people that would then need to start checking their work. And as we update the status, it's pretty cool to be able to visualize that.
It's important to understand what the status is of each task, whether we're the ones submitting or receiving the data. We don't want to waste time or reviewing items that are not ready to be reviewed. So having the most just continuously progressing updates, statuses, or updating the task status, that it's important. It just makes everyone more efficient. No wasting time trying to figure out what is ready for review or what is still in progress.
And once we have delivered a model and connected it up with the requirements, how do we then go through a validation workflow? One thing here is to go by status, and we're looking on the model on the right-hand side to make sure that we've got the right version, first of all. So this is more of putting a manager's hat on, putting the lead appointed party's hat on, and saying, I've now got to review these tasks, and I know that they've been submitted to me. I can go through by clicking again, visualizing, and seeing what is ready for me to take a look at. I can also maybe search for something that I would like to review. In this example, we have a lighting task, and the example here is showing being able to cluster. So if you've got a lot of elements dispersed in a building, it's difficult sometimes to review them. So maybe it's useful to take them out of the building, group them together, and review them together. Another way is being able to understand the data requirements. So each task might have certain information requirements or checklists, notes, attachments that have to be complied by, maybe submittals that are required to be followed.
That's preparing some of the tasks ready to review them, but it's important to communicate fixes. So communicate whether you have a question on a task, or communicate what is missing. We tend to do that in different platforms within Plannerly. You can do that specifically on that task item. Mention who was appointed, or if there's somebody responsible for that specific task. Mention one of the team members. So gathering and containing all of that communication in one area just creates efficiency throughout the workflow.
Yeah, and that was a really important point, connected to the original requirement. If you just reject a task without saying why, or without having that trail of what has been requested, what has been submitted, who has actually moved the status from one status to another, it's really difficult for people to know what's actually needing to be fixed. So that's a really important part of the communication. And if it's tied all the way back to the contractor requirement, it makes it easier for you to know what's missing, what needs to be added. And then as we're going through, being able to filter for the tasks that are ready, and then visually seeing the color coding as you're verifying. We're checking off tasks and things are turning green. It makes it a lot more powerful to see. And as we are sharing a model to be able to be reviewed, the next step is to publish the model, and making sure we've gone through all those workflow steps before we publish it, so that we always have good quality models that are published and authorized for use. So there's this steps, work in progress, shared and published. We only get to that published status when we are authorized for the use of the model, and it's gone through those steps that we've just looked at for the review process. One of the really important steps that we touched on there was keeping records. And nobody likes to keep records. Nobody likes to be manually finding, this is what I did, and documenting it in maybe meeting minutes or a register of events. So we kind of make that super easy as well. It's all an activity history that is on the card, as we mentioned, that is taken from the request through to the delivery, through to the approval. And we can see every time that something changes related to this, or somebody comments mentions somebody else, so that we understand who performed the tests, when did it get checked, what the results were, did it pass, did it fail, and really clearly defining that. And boom, boom, okay.
That's the process there, right?
Yeah, there's a lot more to it. We know that there's not just a few steps within Plannerly. There's lots more tools available for us. So we know that there are many that we can use.
There are different types of deliverables, as we mentioned, right? 3D coordination, estimates. So each one requires different tools for verification. We kind of showed some basic ones to just track the progress through and verify the task. But in between, you might have some other tools or processes for verification. And some of the workflows we're about to share have been shared by our customers, and using structured data.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the importance, is structured data. If you create the requirements in a way that can be exported from Plannerly or any other tool, it needs to be a format that can be then read into other tools. So it's really important to have that structured and repeatable workflow. People are using Dynamo to get information into Revit, for example, or they're using Power BI to be able to dashboard and display information. So we've got a few examples. The first one, Juan shared with us. It's a really great example where we've got.
I saw him on there. Hey.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. And actually, your details are here. So if anyone wants to connect, please do. This is the script that takes that file from Planoly and then starts to add the requirements inside of the parameters required and added to the elements inside of the Revit file as well. Yeah. So we've got each element is loaded. It starts with no parameters. We load the file. It loads them into the project and then also applies them to the elements that are requiring them as well.
Yeah, this is just an example of, throwing in a specific example or workflow from the task team to the lead appointing party. So this is that work of doing that work before. So it's important to understand these examples could be applied in between the verification or the workflow there.
Yep, and more fun things from us here as well. Look out on this space. We also, so that's for Revit, also for Archicad. Archicad is the same principle, being able to use that data, apply it into the project, and use it for the parameters, for the properties, I should say, on each of the elements. So we see those properties here displayed as Planoly properties that are now available inside of the elements inside of Archicad. So from a couple of big, huge behemoths in this space, SimpleBIM, if you haven't heard of them, a great tool. Again, being able to use those requirements and this time checking those requirements. So there's a format here, simple format of an Excel that is used then to check those properties and parameters to make sure that they are added. And then the last of those examples we've got is being able to use, in this example, it was Planoly, 3D Repo, and Power BI to combine data and do validation on the data. So in this example, it was an export from Planoly, an export from 3D Repo, and meeting in the middle using Power BI to dashboard, drill down, and understand what those requirements, whether those requirements were met or not. As you're following the information delivery workflow for ISO 19650, it's not just about throwing a model over a fence or information deliverable over a fence. First, we must understand the requirements, and they are usually in lots of different places. In Planoly, we gather all of those together, whether it's the PIR, EIR, AIR, BEP, all of your requirements based on level of information need, understanding those in one place.
It's important to define a submittal workflow. This makes it easier to review. It's also gathering all the information in a consistent way between multiple models, multiple teams. So it's important to have a defined submittal workflow so that it just creates that consistency for reviewing.
And when you have submitted your work, you need to check it, or the principle is you need to check your work before you submit it or as you submit it. And inside of Planoly, we allow you to connect it to the information requirements. So as you are delivering, before you submit it, before you say this is now ready, you are checking against the original requirements.
Same principle here of having a defined checking workflow is gonna, it's easier to collaborate with the QA process as well. Because if I'm following the same list as Clive or the same process as Clive, it's something we can do collaboratively instead of, me just kind of trying to figure it out and Clive doing his own thing. We wouldn't be able to compare progress or status updates.
And making sure the data is structured so that you can use it in other tools, making sure you allocate time for the checking instead of just waiting until the deadline and saying, hey, the deadline's approached, now it's finished, and the deadline causes that to be finished.
Yeah, we need to know what to exactly check against. This helps us save so much time already getting a list that's prepared for us. As a BIM manager, you're gathering multiple formats and models and data. If the teams can just consolidate what is ready, then it makes it easier to check a list of 20 items as opposed to the 150 items that are in the project. So that it's just all about efficiency for this.
Yep, and being able to record what you're checking along the way, instead of it being a manual task inside of Planoly, it just records everything that happens on a task as an activity, including any communication backwards and forwards related to that item that has been requested.
Within Planoly, the steps are the modules, so it is really combining the process with the tool. So yeah, it just makes things so much more efficient when it's called out like that, and it helps teams just become more efficient throughout the whole workflow and just gather everyone on the same page.
Absolutely. So we really would love to help you simplify your ISO 19650 workflow using Planoly. And in the modules that we have discussed in this series so far, being able to document what's required and contract for it, being able to systematically and in a lean way sequence and then track progress, and also verify the deliverables as they're being submitted. The last part on that workflow we will talk about is the closeout. That will be episode 6, so please sign up for that webinar as well. But a couple of resources to get you started if you're interested in learning more. There's a smartleanbim basics course, which is just on this link /demo. And then also a masterclass, which is for your company. We hold your hands and share the best practices throughout that full workflow in a series of 4 30-minute to 1-hour sessions with your team. That is actually free with any company plan as well. I can see that Louis has shared the next webinar link, so you can go there to register for the next one. Also, maybe worth sharing is this link for getting a quote. We'd love to get you on board if you're not already a customer. That's /quote. We can help you as well. Get a demo, go online, book a meeting with one of the team members, /meeting, and we will see you at the next episode. Oh, if you are working with any universities, lecturing BIM, working with anyone on BIM programs, BIM management programs, we support all of those for free. And if you go to /education, you can register the university or BIM management program, wherever it is, on there for free, and you get free licensing as well. Thank you so much for joining, and we look forward to seeing you next time for the final episode. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.